Well, Simon Rose is from the Save Our Savers campaign. What does he think about the governor's announcement?
I think when people understand the reality, they're going to be pretty dismayed. Savers and pensioners, those relying on fixed incomes, have had a dreadful time for the last 4 years since base rates were cut. It looks as if base rates will stay at the record low for another 3 years or so, which is appalling to those who rely on savings for their income. But not just them. It will mean that inflation is going to be above the government's target for far longer than expected. And as a result, all of us who are feeling the cost of living is hitting us in our pocket are going to find ourselves feeling poorer for some time to come. How you expect a recovery to take place when we're all feeling the pinch is beyond me.
Well, let's get more reaction now from Steve Baker, the Conservative MP for Wickham. What do you think about this move?
Good afternoon. Well, I think it's in the long term going to be very bad news. Today was all about intentions, judgments, provisos. It's going to usher in a new era of Kremlinology, where we're all looking at what the committee will do rather than looking at what's happening in the market. Just picking up on, if I may, on something that was said about growth. Sustainable growth with low interest rates is only going to be justified if it's based on real savings. We haven't had that, so it's bound to be unsustainable.
But you heard the view of the CBI there, saying that they welcomed it would help business to plan for the future and would actually encourage investment.
Well, of course it would. Low interest rates are bound to encourage investment. That's almost precisely the problem with them. I'm a director of a firm and we, of course, are sensitive to interest rates. But if interest rates are going to rise because there aren't the real savings there to keep them low, then actually businesses will get caught out and we won't have sustainable investment. What we'll have is malinvestment. And you know, the Governor of the Bank of England is aware of this critique. It's called the Austrian critique. And he has said in a speech in February 2012 that the way to deal with it is to tie it in with the other powers. By implication, he said that the way to deal with it was to tie it in with the other powers of the Bank of England. And it says that today he's going to use the powers of the FPC, the Financial Conduct Authority and the Prudential Regulation Authority to try and deal with the consequences of easy money. And in the end, it will not work.
Well, he said, I think through those agencies that there are plenty of safeguards built into the system, and if inflation does rise too high, then the bank, through its Monetary Policy Committee, will take action.
Absolutely, but unfortunately he's concentrating on coarse aggregates which obscure all the detail that matters, and so what he's going to find is he's sown a load of mini bubbles which eventually will all burst, and it will leave us worse off than we are now.
But can you be sure that they will all burst? I mean, the governor was talking this morning about there being a lot of spare capacity in the economy. In other words, there's quite a lot of slack, so that the immediate threat of inflation isn't one that we should worry about too much.
Well, I'm afraid, again, this is one of the problems with mainstream economists. Because they talk about the output gap as this coarse aggregate, they forget that a lot of this spare capacity is actually investment that was misdirected by cheap money in the past. And we've had this enormous increase in the money supply. The money supply tripled between 1997 and 2010. And if you triple the money supply in 13 years, you get investment in goods which actually nobody needs. And rather than having an output gap, what we've actually got is a lot of investment in real capital goods that's been wasted. So unfortunately, when spending picks up, what we'll get is inflation, and it will take them by surprise.
But would you concede that the recession could have been much deeper if the Bank of England hadn't taken that kind of action to stimulate the economy?
Yes, it would have been deeper and it would have been briefer, and we would have been back to sustainable growth now based on real savings. And this is unfortunately what has happened. These continual policies of kicking the can down the road are not in fact helping people in our society. It helps defer pain, not minimise it.
Steve Baker, Conservative MP for Wickham, thank you very much.